As the most promising day in the history of the WNBA arrived, the American cultural spotlight shined brighter than it ever had on a female athlete in a team sport, and on the possibility she brings to lift basketball and all women's sports to a place they have never been. But the glare of that bright and sometimes harsh light hasn't fixed on the magical Caitlin Clark alone. Over the past couple of weeks, it has focused on the players who have come before her, some of whom strangely appear to be having trouble accepting and dealing with her fame, even as they will benefit greatly from it. As Clark was leading Iowa to its second consecutive NCAA final, this one a loss to undefeated national champion South Carolina, and delivering massive TV ratings that for the first time have ever beaten the men, some of the biggest names in her sport were talking about her. The question to Breanna Stewart, a four-time NCAA champion at UConn, two-time WNBA champion and two-time Olympic gold medalist, came on SiriusXM radio before the final 4 games were played.
Does Caitlin Clark need a championship to be considered one of the greats in women's college basketball history?
What a layup this was for Stewart. The question was not if Clark needed a championship to be the GOAT, the greatest of all time. No, the question was much broader and easier to answer. Was Clark one of the greats? There can be dozens of those, as many as you want. The more the merrier. One would certainly think the person who has scored the most points in NCAA Division I basketball history, male or female, that's Clark, would be one of them. Not for Stewart.
Yeah, she does. I think so. Because then you're gonna look 10 years back and you're gonna see all the records she's broken and the points and stuff like that. But anybody knows, you know, your goal when you play college basketball is to win a national championship. So you need one.
Needless to say, that created some news. And not in a good way for Stewart. Her answer was downright strange, as if she didn't want to acknowledge that this young woman, more than 7 years her junior, was changing everything about how the nation looks at her sport. Stewart instead chose to keep her steely focus on her UConn roots, where she was fortunate to play on a roster full of future WNBA players to be able to win those 4 titles. Clark played on a full roster of future non-WNBA players, other than herself, and somehow took Iowa to 2 consecutive NCAA finals. Stewart's fellow former UConn superstar Diana Taurasi, who at 41 is nearly 20 years older than the 22-year-old Clark, also joined in the chorus of less than flattering comments about Clark on her ESPN telecast with fellow UConn icon Sue Bird. The question was asked who they would take with the first pick in the draft if they were building a WNBA team, Clark or UConn's Paige Buchers, who wasn't even going to be in the draft this year.
DMC, you have to build a WNBA team. Who are you taking first? Paige or Caitlin? I have an answer. Want me to go?
You go.
I think you have to take Caitlin for one reason, because I think you can't go wrong with choosing either one.
Right.
The fan energy behind Caitlin is going to be a game changer for a WNBA franchise. I think for that reason, right now, this year, you have to take her. From a basketball standpoint, I can make an argument for Paige.
I'm taking Paige. Next question.
So if you had the #1 pick this year, you would take Paige over Caitlin?
Absolutely.
There was another Taurasi moment on ESPN after Iowa defeated UConn in their national semifinal. Asked about rookies like Clark and South Carolina's Camila Cardozo coming into the league, Taurasi relished giving them a swift kick to the shins.
Reality is coming.
Okay.
You know, there's levels to this thing, and that's just life. We all went through it.
Of course.
And you see it on the NBA side, and you're going to see it on this side, where, you know, you look superhuman playing against 18-year-olds, but you're going to come with some grown women that have been playing professional basketball for a long time.
Those who know Taurasi say this is who she is, tough and brash, a force to be reckoned with always. The problem for Taurasi, if she even cares about this, is all the new eyeballs being brought to the game for the first time by Clark. The millions of new women's basketball fans don't necessarily know much about Taurasi, but they are certainly getting an introduction now. That's why Caitlin left them out of the Mount Rushmore of the WNBA during a shootout after the draft.
Thanks to all the great players like Cheryl Swoops, Lisa Leslie, Cynthia Cooper, the great Dawn Staley, and my basketball hero, Maya Moore. These are the women that kicked down the door so I could walk inside.
Some fans recognized the poke and went to X to show their reactions. And she left Diana Taurasi off the list. LMAO. Well-deserved diss. Notice no love to DT or KP? Caitlin Clark mic dropped Diana Taurasi and Sue Bird on SNL, and this has become my new Roman Empire. 100-year-old Diana Taurasi trying to stop Caitlin Clark from half court because she played layup merchants her whole career. For her part, be it at the Final Four or throughout her young career, Clark has unfailingly praised the women who have come before her, thanking them for being role models and heroes for girls and women like her. So what we have here is good old-fashioned player hating. And the fact that Taurasi has riled up people on both sides of this conversation is the clearest sign that women's basketball now has a seat at the big boys and girls table. Gilbert Arenas predicted how the situation will go for these current stars once Clark takes the court against them.
Diana Taurasi and all of them, soon as that game starts, sit your old ass down. Yeah. 2 fouls. Sit down. And then newspaper. Caitlin Clark, bodies, DT. It's a new era. Because I don't need you anymore.
While Arenas says he respects the fight that the OGs have in trying to stand their ground and protect legacies, it's a battle that they already lost. When Taurasi says in reference to Clark that reality is coming, there is levels to this thing and that's just life, we all went through it, Arenas believes that Taurasi is the one that should be readjusting her reality because the league no longer needs to promote the old guard.
I don't need you. Listen, you held it down for 20 years. Congratulations.
Clark represents the fresh juice, freshly squeezed for taking the baton and elevating the league to new heights, keeping these eyes that women's basketball has gained, and that will only increase as they dominate at the Paris Olympics this summer. Cheryl Swoops' fact-free broadside against Caitlin that went viral on social media is an undeniably bad look for the 52-year-old legend. If you watch the entire segment with Arenas, Kenyon Martin, and host Josiah Johnson, it's abundantly clear that Swoops does not like Clark. Though she acknowledges almost through gritted teeth that Clark can shoot the basketball, no doubt about it. The conversation veers mostly towards skepticism about whether her game will translate to the WNBA.
So will Caitlin Clark be a good pro? Absolutely. Will Caitlin Clark come into the WNBA and do what she's doing right now? Immediately? Absolutely not. Not gonna happen.
Okay.
Caitlin Clark right now probably takes about 40 shots a game.
Here we go.
I know you like that.
Hell yeah.
I said that because when she comes to the league, regardless of what team she goes to that has vets on that team, she probably ain't gonna get 40 shots a game. But here's the other thing that I know you don't want to talk about is the defense.
Oh yeah, y'all.
No, I'm just, like, you gotta guard somebody. You gotta guard somebody.
When we talk about wanting equal opportunity for women's sports in America, it's focused mostly on things like money and exposure. But the real coin of the realm is how it impacts the narrative and the culture. A women's sport only truly arrives in America at the moment we start talking about it, and sometimes being critical of its participants, just as we would a men's sport. Anything less would be patronizing. Though Swoops acknowledged that Clark and Reese eventually playing in the WNBA will help the league draw new fans and viewers, you can understand why the great players of her generation might bristle at how this moment is playing out. They didn't get this audience, this adulation, or these commercial opportunities. Women's basketball endured decades of put-downs and apathy, with incremental breakthroughs. Someone like Swoops, an NCAA champion, a 4-time WNBA champion, 3-time Olympic gold medalist, and a true icon of the game, was a big story in her time. But not this kind of phenomenon. Anything else is just player hating, and another piece of evidence women's basketball has finally made it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Drop a like and subscribe to our channel for more amazing basketball content.